morning, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd World Education Summit, the Higher Education Edition. As we all understand, the National Education Policy or the NEP 2020 is a very significant step in bringing the much needed change to the education system. In this first panel discussion of the first day of the World Education Summit, I have with me some experts from across the country coming together to discuss the approach, the opportunities, and the challenges for NEP. I am Tarannum Manjul, the Assistant Editor at Elets Technomedia, and I would like to welcome all our panelists. With me, I have Dr. A.M. Ravani, Director, National Institute of Technology, NIT Raipur, Chhattisgarh. Welcome, sir. We have Dr. Arun Mohan Sherry, the Founding Director, Indian Institute of Information Technology, Triple IT, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. Welcome, Dr. Sherry. I have with me Professor T.V. Kattimani, Vice Chancellor, Central Tribal University, Andhra Pradesh. Welcome, sir. I have Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, Founder and Chancellor, Bharatiya Engineering Science and Technology Innovation University, Anantapur, Andhra Pradesh. Welcome, ma'am. And with me, I also have Dr. Madhu Chitkara, Pro Chancellor, Chitkara University, Punjab and Himachal, and HP, Himachal Pradesh. Welcome, ma'am. We would also have Dr. Ranjita Kulkarni, President, Sri Sri University, Cuttack, Odisha, joining us. So I would now welcome all our panelists. And since we are talking about NEP, let me just start with Dr. A.M. Ramani, Director, National Institute of Technology, Raipur. Sir, do you think that the NEP has emerged as a tool for universalization of education from the primary level to the secondary level?
Yeah, very good morning to all of you. First of all, I thank the organizer for giving me the opportunity to put my point of views here before the audience and have a discussion with the learned members of this panel. Yes, if we say the NEP, National Education Policy, which is came up in 2020, is a very huge document, and having the coverage from the school education to the higher education, everything is covered in that. So it suggests a revolutionary change in the, you can say, education system. If I focus more on the higher education system, it talks about the institutional restructuring, where the transformation of the higher education is there to multidisciplinary education. Actually, we are having, say, for example, the engineering institution or arts or science educational institutes, but this NEP focuses on the holistic development of an individual, and hence the multidisciplinary university kind of things will be there. And it is said that the phasing out of the affiliation system in the next 15 years. So it is going to provide autonomy to the higher education institutes. Autonomy in the sense of having innovation in their pedagogy, having innovation in their curriculum, change of the curriculum periodically, and conduction of the examination. Everything is that. It's a multidisciplinary education, as I said. So there will not be a kind of binaries like arts, science, and like that, but we may have all kind of things there. And the focus is also there on the community engagement. Students will be given projects for the community engagement, and this is how they are in some way going to solve the society problem as well. So they feel connected with the society, and the ultimate aim of the goal of the NEP is not only for the employment purpose. As you say, the previous education policies there, the focus was not on very much on the, you can say, as what we see in NEP. They usually talk about the conduction of examination, passing of the examination, and having a placement, getting an employment. But as far as the NEP 2020 is concerned, it is going to give the opportunity for individual development. He can pick up the subject as per his interest, not only one subject, but in various disciplines he can study the subjects of his own interest. And this is going to have his own development of an individual, and ultimately, eventually leading to the development of the whole nation. And there are multiple entry exit options are also given there, and where flexibility is there to the students. It talks about the academic bank of credit as well, where the student can earn the credits if he by some reason, because of some reason, if he's quitting the course, he can continue the course later on. The credits, whatever he has earned, can be encased at a later stage, redeemed at a later stage, and he can get the degree. So basically, the approach here is learning centric approach, is not merely not a curriculum centric approach, is a learning centric approach. So it's not merely passing of the examination based on whatever is written in the examination, but the evaluation will be based on the learning by the individuals. So that is basically, you can say, a lot of focus is there. And here the students will not only learn, but they will also learn how to learn. So that is more important here. A lot of freedom is given to there. Vocational education is also talked about here, and vocational education so as to have satisfy the need of the industry. Say industries, 21st century skills are required, different sets of skills are required. We are in the age of where we are talking about the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so many other things. So everybody may not, as for looking to his own curriculum, maybe is studying a particular, if I say the engineering, he may be studying a particular branch of engineering, but through vocational education, he can develop this skill. And I would say that the institute should think of restructuring their credit, so that they should ensure that every student, when he is going to get the degree, he should have gone through at least one vocational education. So it is a kind of compulsion if we make it compulsion in the sense of undergoing through vocational education. In vocational education, the choices will be there with the students. He may pick up any kind of thing, so that necessary skill which is required, that can be developed. And this NEP also talks about transformational changes in the regulatory system as well. Regulatory system of the higher education, there are four independent verticals have been talked about, and under one umbrella, the umbrella is Higher Education Commission of India, under which we have the first vertical as a National Higher Education Regulatory Council, second is National Accreditation Council, third is Higher Education Grants, which is taking care of the funding and financing of the institution, and fourth one is the General Education Council, which will frame the expected outcome. So, focus is there in restructuring the whole governing system as well. Is focus is there in the lifelong learning is as well. It's not only for the education during their schooling or their during the higher education, but there must be, you can say, lifelong learning, and adult education is also focused on that. And one very important thing there is the medium of instruction should not be a barrier for individuals. So the instructions may be in the regional languages, that is also there, and the use of technology should be there. That is not only use, I should say, the integration of the technology with the existing system. When I say integration, means it's not limited to administration of the institute, but it is again the during the lecture delivery, the technology should be used. Using the technology, the I should say the everyone should get the access to the available resources. That is the idea behind that. And again, in technology, two parts are there. The first is that the technology should be included as a, you can say, in the content of the curriculum. And secondly, the technology should be used to deliver those contents to the maximum extent possible. But this apparently seems that a lot of developments are there, a lot of, you can say, the good point of views are there. If it's successfully implemented, definitely we can achieve the desired outcomes. But I would say that there are certain challenges as well. The first challenge is related with the infrastructure, because in initially I said that the gradual phasing out of the university system will be there. So it's affiliation system will be phased out in a gradual manner. So the infrastructure development, and IT infrastructure development. These two are requiring a lot of investment. So that is really a challenge for us. And capacity building of the institute, where we have to train the teacher to handle the technology, that is again another challenge. And use of regional language is again another challenge. These are some of the challenges. So thank you very much. With this, I think opening my point of view. Yeah.
That was wonderful, Dr. Ramani, because you in fact presented all the challenges that are coming in the implementation of national education policy. Now my question is to Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. Ma'am, do you think that NEP is supporting in identifying the gaps in the current curriculum? If you look at the present curriculum, do you think that NEP is able to identify these gaps in the curriculum?
Thank you so much for having me here today, and I thank Elets for this wonderful panel discussion on NEP. And thank you for your question. What I believe is the fact that as an educator, the workplace, which we see across the globe now, is now and for the near future changing rapidly. And it's leaving the age old traditional education system far behind. There is going to be a situation where a certificate from prestigious university will be of a very limited, negligible value in the job market because the gig economy is expected to take over services jobs. And it does not require master's degree. It requires an attitude. It requires willingness from a student. It requires willingness to work for anyone from anywhere at any given point of time. Now, when I say that, universities, schools, colleges, with the national education policy, have now started recognizing that the only way they can meet revenue, pedagogical, and operational challenges is by reshaping student experiences and processes through digital technologies. Now, let's take a look at what are the 21st century skills that are required for a child. Basically, you have to teach them the foundational knowledge, which is the core knowledge, which is to do with the core content knowledge, with digital literacy, with cross disciplinary aspects. Second is the humanistic knowledge. These are the kind of newer age skills that are developed with the national education policy, in which it strongly encourages to value what you learn. So, the life skills, the job skills, the ethical awareness, the cultural competence, these come under the humanistic skills. And then there is the meta knowledge, which is to do with design thinking, communication, collaboration, problem solving, and innovation. So, I think this learning outside of the four walls of a classroom to encourage students to imbibe from the real world is what national education policy is in a capsule. Now, it seeks to shift from the content driven curriculum, which is what we offered a while ago, which only inspired rote learning, to now which is transforming into applied learning. There is a lot of importance that is put to a 360-degree assessment model that covers educational, physical, and also the mental well-being of a student. Lastly, there is also great emphasis on experiential learning, which we at Best Innovation University have always been, promoting and encouraging students to take up. Vocational skills, design thinking, critical thinking, which are extremely important for the 21st century skill sets. So I think the goal of NEP is primarily to identify these gaps to make Indian learners truly global citizens who are future ready. And this policy envisions a very holistic model, I would say, which is integrated, which is enjoyable, which is more than anything immersive, and with a scientific temper and evidence-based thinking, which will become the pillar of the NEP. I also feel that there is one very important aspect that NEP has brought into the whole system, which is flexibility, such that the learners can choose their learning trajectories. They can choose between arts, science, physical education, between extracurricular activities, between music. They can pick whatever piques their interest in a multidisciplinary approach, and that is extremely important for our primary education, which is also because the students, by the time they come to the higher education, are highly concretized in their mindset of a bird's eye view of a single subject, which is what we need to break. The shackles have to break. The failure of Indian education system has rightly been identified in the national education policy as school education, and that's where a lot of reforms have been made. But having said that, there are different changes that are happening in the assessment modules, in the pedagogies, in the delivery models. But we are a huge country, we are a complex country in ourselves. We have about 265 million children in school. We have about 8 million graduates passing out every year. No system, no country handles so much. We are ahead of every other country in the world when it comes to education. And the issues or the challenges that we know of are by its very nature complex, because then it stands a reason also that the solutions have to come out multifaceted, and it has to address a range of issues, and often probably several at once. The impact and success of the implementation of these newer policies, the revolutionary policies, the transformatory policies, is to be laid out phase wise, and which is what the UGC is doing right now, under the able leadership of Jagdish Kumarji as the UGC chairman. There's been one policy decision every week that has been coming out, extremely progressive. But these need to be monitored, these need to be evaluated, with effective approaches being taken in and ineffective approaches being filtered. All said and done, I think it's imperative that we all, as stakeholders, industry, academia, tech companies, the statutory bodies, that we act collectively to remove the constraints, which is diversity, technological constraint, social, organizational, policy, political, or otherwise, that would stifle the implementation part for the national education policy. And I think together it's quite possible that we make it happen.
That was wonderful, Dr. Vasudevan. In fact, yes, you very rightly said that it's very important for the industry, the academia, the tech, and they should all come together in collaboration to make NEP happen. Because at the end of the day, NEP has been created, NEP has been brought to create, better skills amongst the youth, but better skills among the students. Now, my question is to Dr. Madhu Chitkara. Ma'am, do you feel that the NEP can ensure greater skill ability amongst the young people to make them industry ready?
First of all, thank you, Tarannu, for making me a part of it. And I think all well people are there with me in the panel. And there is so much to learn. And I think my previous two speakers have said so many, touched so many verticals of NEP. Well said by you that how they are talking about the skills. I'm very amazed to know that in only one education policy they are able to touch from P2P. Now we can't do anything if we are not talking about the school education. So they started the skill education from school itself. I think that is a great thing which this NEP did, and they tried to I think touch upon from P2P, from the primary school education to the higher school education till the PhD. So, if you talk about the skill education, they have not started even in higher education, but they started working in the school education also. I will give you one example that how they have done it. And I think some of my previous speakers have touched also that if you see the NEP, first thing which is very important is that they have said that there were previously many regulatory bodies, they were talking about the skill at a very different level. Now they have done it very concise manner that one regulatory body will be there, those who will be taking care of the whole verticals of the education. So starting from the school education to the higher education, um, you see the school curriculum. What they have done is, when I was going through the school education, they said that the mathematical thinking, the scientific temper, and from sixth onwards they will be doing the coding. it means for that they have started working on the tinkering labs also. Some of schools have got the tinkering labs, and from there they have started working on the skills of the students. So I think if you talk about the skill part, it is a policy which came into existence where there was a requirement of the skill, and the industry is talking about it, that when the students are going for them for the industry as a placement, so they said that the some of the places, they were not properly groomed, and that is why they were finding the problem and they were doing the skills with them. So now, since it is in the part, and there is a multi entry and multi exit programs, so whenever a student is not good at some of the skills, they can exit from the program, and they can have any program in mind. Now, for example, the student from engineering, after 3 years, if he wants to quit and they want to get the degree of BSc, and again wanted to go for some any of the skills, it can be interdisciplinary skill, it can be any of the field, any of the discipline, he can go or she can go. So it means, when we are talking about, this is the first time it happened that they can go for any of the programs. And there was beautifully mentioned that there is tech based option for adult learning through apps, through TV channels. So it never happened that they were talking about the adult education through giving them through different ICT equipped libraries and the adult education centers. It was there, but now, since the digitalization is done, and during COVID we have also seen that. So, and the best part is, for giving them the skills, they have started the e-courses which is available in the regional languages. We never thought of doing that. There can be programs which can be in different regional language, and now they have started with the Kannada, Uriya, Bengali. English, Hindi was already there. We know that these courses were there already in English and Hindi. But the first experiment, they have started with the Kannada language, Uriya, Bengali. And the next part, which is very important, is that for the central universities, and 90 well said by my previous speaker, that they said that the UGC chairmen, they are announcing every week a new policy, and from that, I think last week we got our information that all the central universities will be having a common interest test for higher education institutes, which is they have named this as the NTA. And I think these are the steps where we will be able to perform better than we were doing it. But during lockdown, when the digitalization was done and everything is on digital platform, so these skills can be achieved very easily, and using the digital equipments, we can do it. I think that will be the best part of NEP.
That is so well said, ma'am, that yes, of course, digital tools are a very important part of NEP. And now my question is to Professor TV Kattimani. Sir, do you, like, in your opinion, what are the essential components that are required for the successful implementation of NEP, especially in
Taranum,
universities like yours?
may I request you, Taranum? I am boarding my
Yeah.
flight.
Oh,
Next I can be called. Next I can be called. And
perfectly fine, sir.
next
So
person,
I'll put
next
this,
person.
yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'll put this question, if possible, to Dr. Arun Mohan Sherry. Dr. Sherry, if you're around, I can put this question to you. Dr. Sherry, can I have you on the screen? Is Okay, he was a little caught up. Do I have Miss Rajita Kulkarni with me? I
Yes,
think I
yes.
have Rajita. Yes, ma'am.
I have
So
yes.
yeah. So, ma'am, I'll put this question to you then. To Miss Rajita Kulkarni. She's the president of Shri Shri University, Cuttack. In fact, yes, ma'am. I can put this across to you as well. That what are the essential components, in your opinion, which are required for the successful implementation of NEP?
Yes, thanks a lot for having me here on this panel with such a erudite leaders from the field of education. And it was very, very nice to hear the thoughts of Dr. Chitkara, Dr. Rupa, and Dr. Ramani before me. And this is a very, very important question, Taranum, that you have raised, because in spirit and in letter and word, the policy is the most disruptive and the most innovative thing I think that has happened for the field of education, especially in India. I don't think anything has created so much as excitement and so much aspirational value as the NEP globally. And it coincided with the unfortunate pandemic onset in 2020. So at such a difficult time, to have such a forward thinking and disruptive policy, I think put catapulted and really showcased the thought leadership of us as a country. But I think the proof of the pudding is in how we can implement it. And I think for that there is a very very I think we need to look at it from a multi stakeholder perspective. All of us have been on number of panels and we have been discussing about it. I look at it from 4 or 5 big sort of pillars point of view. First is, as the first speaker, the honorable director of NIT identified the 4 verticals that have to be set up. So at the statutory level, at the central level, all the setting up of these in new agencies of the National Research Funding Agency, all the other agencies that have to be set up. I think there has to be speed on how these agencies are going to be set up, because it is there in the NEP that they will be set up. But I think we need timelines and very clear responsibilities on how they will be set up, by when, what will be their what will be their mandates, how will they function, what will be the way they will, how will the university bodies interact with them, how will the assessment, what is the matrix. So there is a lot of nitty gritties about how they will be set up. So I think that is number one from a statutory point of view. And this applies both at the central level as well as the state level. Each of us belong to different states. We have been part of think tanks and task forces at our state government levels. We are doing that at central levels. So all the statutory, regulatory implementation and creation of these new agencies, I think we need some timelines frameworks to understand how these agencies will be set up and how they will be, by when they will be set up. So that's number one. Number two is I look at the university pillar at 2 levels: what we can do internally in our own universities and what we need to do together. For example, one of the elements of the NEP is flexible entry and exit. So for example, if a student exits, say, from Dr. Chitkara's university and then wants to take a entry into another program which my university offers, if her university is prepared for it but mine is not, then how does this particular element work? So there are some aspects of the NEP where I have been advocating. Dr. Chitkara has heard it before. We have spoken about it together, that there are some elements we need to take bite size. So let's take flexible entry exit. I would say let all of us as university heads agree that this is one thing we will all do. Because unless we all do this together, how will the students enter and exit? What will they do? Okay, they can do it in our own universities, but this also links to the academic bank of credits. Suppose all of us are not ready, how will we calculate these credits? How will the students earn them? How will those credits be relevant for them? So I think that there are some elements of the NEP where all of us as universities need to implement in bite-size pieces, because unless we all do it, the students cannot get the benefit of it. And then there is other aspects which we can do internally within our university, within our own individual universities, where it comes to multidisciplinary education. We all know how many silos there are, and those internal silos are for us to break. When the NEP was announced, we luckily, because we are a very young university, we also have the benefit of being a little more agile. I think, if you're a 50, 70, 100-year-old university, your life is, in a way, your culture, your DNA becomes a bit of who you are. and that much more it becomes challenging to change and move. But because we are a very young university, I think it gave us that advantage. So a few things about industry academia partnership, like one of the things in the year of 2020 we launched was a faculty of emerging technologies, where our decision is that all programs we will launch in this faculty will only be industry collaborated programs. So all cutting edge technology, Dr. Rupa was talking about digital literacy today. The pandemic has taught even our 85 and 90-year-old parents and grandparents to use Zoom and operate technology. So in this faculty of emerging technologies, we've decided we will only do industry collaborated programs. So we've started now a program on artificial intelligence with the IBM Innovation Center. We are designing one more with Microsoft, where they design along with us and based on what they want as an output. So these things we can do ourselves internally. We started a couple of research centers on especially natural resources, water, things like that. So what we can do internally, I think, is up to us to take those steps and make sure that we are doing. So this is at a university level. Third is the industry. Dr. Rupa spoke about future skills. You look at any data, any report today. Today it is all talking about the combination of skills that we require. In fact, the World Economic Forum latest report on the top 10 skills for 2025 says that 8 out of those 10 skills are not related to any knowledge domain, not related to technology, but related to how we manage ourselves as human beings: resilience, emotional intelligence, and the like. 2 skills are related to technology. So my concern is that whatever we are doing for students, so for example, multidisciplinary education is one part of the NEP, which we have all loved. So if a student graduates out of my university who has a credit in physics, a credit in pottery, a credit in dance, and a credit in Sanskrit, now which industry will take him? The output from our universities is input for industry. So I think a little bit what we have not fully involved is our industry partners, because today we will suppose our universities produce these students who are coming with these incredible multidisciplinary degrees, but what jobs will they get? What kind of industry will be their primary go-to industry? So, there was another report I saw, Dr. Chitkara, that 125 to 30 million current jobs will be displaced in the next 2 years. It's next 2 years goes in a blink of an eye. And about 70, 80 million new jobs will be created. Also, all managers now, after the pandemic, are saying that they will hire for skills. Dr. Rupa spoke about anywhere, anyhow, my working ability, and that is the truth. So if industry needs to hire for skills, industry needs to hire for these aspects and these attitudes and qualities, how is what we are teaching them fitting that? So I think a very important partner and very important component pillar for success of implementation of NEP is what industry wants from us and how they are partnering with us, so that what we are teaching our students becomes relevant for them to to receive as an input. So that's the third pillar, which is the which is a key success factor for implementation. The fourth pillar is our own teachers. I think there is a certain mindset till now, and there is a certain capacity and capability. So all these three we need to address. Training is needed, capacity building is needed, and the openness of the mindset to be able to do. Just take one multidisciplinary education. Is our faculty of science and our faculty of arts, how much is the confluence? How much is the synergy? And that mindset, I think, is important. So teachers are a very, very important part of this building block. And last but not the least is students and parents. I mean, for the interest of time, I'm putting them in one category. We all grew up with BSc karo, BCom karo, MSc karo, MPharm karo, okay, some of it is changing, but still there is a certain what education means to our students and to our parents. And if the NEP is envisioning to disrupt that, and I'm speaking more only for higher education, then there is a lot of awareness, advocacy that needs to be done for students, for parents. So I think regulators and statutory bodies, universities ourselves internally, and universities as a cohort, what we do together, industry, our teaching faculty and teams, and students and parents. And of course, government is, I'm including them in the first building block. And all of this underlying with, all of us are also university and institute administrators, administratively, and in a sustainable, financial sustainable sense. What does all this mean for us? So that becomes another building block. So I think how all of these building blocks can work together and make sure that they are moving together will be very critical for the success of the implementation of NEP. There is a lot of great small steps I think already we are all taking as our own institutions, but I think the coming years are going to be very critical in how each of these building blocks pans out.
That was very interesting, ma'am. You, in fact, I think you believe, I believe, in fact, you shared all the components that are very, very essential for the implementation of NEP. I would now put my question to Dr. Arun Mohan Sherry. If I can see you on screen, sir. Dr. Sherry, if I can see you on screen now. Yes, sir. Sir, my question to you would be that will one of the major goals of NEP, will it be bridging the social gaps in access, participation, and the learning outcomes of school education? Do you think that this would be one of the major goals of NEP?
See, the major problem in our present education system is ki- it's not in the local language, whether it's higher education or even in primary education, the focus is on English language or the Hindi language. In NEP, major focus is we can impart education in the local language. So I think this is a very good step and it will improve the gross enrollment ratio even in higher education sector. Second important factor is in our country, if you will see the top institution, the fee structure is at higher side and intake is at lower side. Let's take an example of IIMs in the country. There are limited seats and the fee structure, it varies from 18 lakhs to 28 lakhs or 30 lakh rupees. So in new education policy or national education policy, now here the focus is on technology enabled learning. This means we can provide the quality education at a reasonable price to masses. So the idea is how to increase the reach, how to increase the gross enrollment ratio, and how to provide quality education at a reasonable price to masses. And recently, you people observed that this UGC, they granted permission to start online courses in top 100 universities in NIRF ranking. Now they want to extend it further so that quality education can reach to masses. Second is, there is a lot of flexibility in NEP. The multiple entry, multiple exit option, multidisciplinary education. For example, take an example of IIIT Lucknow. Recently, we started a unit program at undergrad level, BTech in computer science and business. The earlier trend was BTech in computer science and engineering. After that, a student can join any, management institute to complete the master's degree in management history. But what we have done, we merged these two streams, keeping in mind the new rules and regulation related with NEP. This means interdisciplinary education. So we combine this technology with management. Even if you will see the trend in management education across the globe, now the focus is on use of artificial intelligence in the area of management, use of machine learning in the area of management. Now, what we are planning at Triple IT Lucknow, now we want to combine computer science with music. Because if you will see trend globally, now the music everywhere is, the use of computer science in the area of music, computer generated music. In every studio, you will find this Apple machine to, fine tune that video or fine tune the audio. And it's very, very scientific. So, how to combine this music with computer science? Similarly, the language like Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a very scientific language. How to combine Sanskrit with computer science? So, now the focus of NEP is on interdisciplinary education. How we can combine, for example, take an example of social media, Facebook. you know the mindset of the people is this: Facebook is related with IT only, with computer science only. But it's not like that. Here the major role is of psychology, and how we can combine psychology with IT or psychology with computer science. So in NEP, this will be a game changer, and I think it will create a lot of job opportunities globally, and it will resolve the problem of gross enrollment ratio. It will resolve the problem of infrastructure. It will boost up the research activity across the country. You know, they have created a separate vertical. In the higher education sector, there are three important components. It is known as 3K. First K is for knowledge creation. Second is for knowledge dissemination. And third one is knowledge certification. Right? Knowledge creation is by research. Now, how to use technology in this domain? You know, there is lot of debate कि Indian universities or Indian education system is not at par with the global standards as far as research is concerned. But now we can use technology for quality research. Recently this Stanford University, they started a project called Crowd Research Project. And the idea behind this is anyone across the globe can contribute in the research activity virtually. So what we can do, we can connect all the universities or all the research and development organization with the help of technology for, you know, working in the new areas or frontline areas related with research. Second important component in the education sector is knowledge dissemination. Till date, the mindset was the knowledge dissemination is possible only in the classroom. Now, the latest mantra is learning outside the classroom, beyond the boundaries. Not necessary, it will be in online mode, but outside the classroom. Outside the classroom means student can go to the industry, they can learn outside the classroom. So, this is again change the scenario of education in the country. Third one is the knowledge certification. Certification is by conducting the examination or by assessment. Now, earlier the mindset was examination will be paper pencil based or paper copy based examination system. But now there is technology available to conduct the proctored examination remotely. So in NEP, they created a separate vertical which is exclusively for the technology, use of technology in the education sector. So in my opinion, this is a perfect policy which will boost up the education sector in the country. It will improve the gross enrollment ratio. It will improve the quality of education. It will improve the quality of research, and it will promote the interdisciplinary education in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sherry, and that was interesting to hear out. My question now is to Dr. A.M. Ravani. Sir, in fact, we have heard all our panelists talking about NEP and the benefits of NEP. What do you think is the biggest challenge in the implementation of NEP?
Yeah, as I said in my earlier remark that a lot of challenges are there. First thing is that the most important aspect is of the NEP is to providing a lot of flexibility. Flexibility. Everywhere it talks about that flexibility to the learner, flexibility to the teacher, flexibility to the institute. But whenever there is a flexibility, the flexibility should be within the rigid boundary. That is most important. Otherwise, there will be a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion will be there. So we have to have a clear-cut, you can say, framework guideline for this flexibility. It's not that one student can take any subject if he is going to get the degree in mechanical engineering, for example. If I say he can take any subjects of the civil engineering or electronics like that, it should not be like that. There should be certain framework for that. And when the question comes of having such kind of framework, or even if I talk about the ABC, as my previous speaker rightly said, that when the question comes of earning the credits and having a bank of those credits and utilizing or redemption of those credits later on, this will be possible when all educational institutes or universities work together. So we have to work together. Rather, I should say there must be certain uh, guideline from the you can say at the national level for a time frame for the implementation of this. Then only the NEP will work properly and there will not be confusion. Otherwise, one can earn the credit and cannot utilize it in the other university. So there will be a lot of confusion and chaos will be there. So that is the most important thing. Another challenge is building of the infrastructure. Infrastructure, as the universities are going to be converted into the multidisciplinary universities. So definitely a lot of physical infrastructure will be required for that. And in addition to that, harnessing the technology, utilizing technology for the delivery of the lectures, for all, you can say, development of the curriculum and all that. It is greater emphasis that is there in the NEP for the use of the technology. So we have to have a proper infrastructure for the IT as well. And IT infrastructure, when I say, definitely it involves a lot of initial investment. So that is again a great challenge. And success of NEP is possible only when the most important you can say the stakeholder is the faculty. When faculty is contributing wholeheartedly for this, and that will be possible when they are properly trained, they are energized, they are, you can say, working in the implementation of NEP. And for that, their training is very much important. They have to not only work as a teacher, they have to work as a facilitator, as a mentor for the career of the students as well. So their mentorship is also important. Their training is also important. Knowledge of updation of the faculty is also important. So capacity building is an important challenge for this. And uh, availability of the various courses in the regional languages, though some of the efforts has been made and now we have the courses available in the various regional languages, that is true. But when we want to spread it and wanted to have it in more regional languages, that is again becoming challenge. So the question comes that so many challenges are there, but how we can face those challenges? What should be the solution? So as far as the infrastructure development is concerned, the government should look for the triple P model, where we have to think for the financial contribution by the industries, by the private players, so that we can build up the infrastructure. It's not only building up the infrastructure, but the faculty and students should have access to the infrastructure. That is also important. So access to the infrastructure, when the use of technology, we are saying when the student is having the access to the courses remotely, then he should have the access to the availability of the internet at his remote location. That is a great problem in India, and that is becoming a great challenge also, that all we have realized during pandemic. because we were delivering the lectures in online mode, and there the students were not having the access, continuous access to the internet connectivity. So that is a great challenge. We have to think about that and come out with certain solution. Then only it will be possible. And continuous and updation of the faculty should also be there. Their refresher courses providing opportunity for their self development, so that they feel that their career is also properly taken care of, and they can contribute to the institute and for the successful implementation of NEP. Yes.
So now, like we had a wonderful discussion on the NEP. In fact, we heard so many different opinions on how NEP can be implemented and how it will be able to identify the gaps in the curriculum and what are the outcomes, what are the goals of the NEP. As a closing remark from all of you now, I would like to ask, what do you think is the expectation of the academia from the government in terms of implementation of the NEP? And I would start from Dr. Madhu Chitkara on that.
Thank you, Tarannu. And I think first I want to have some remark on Rajita ma'am's point, that when she said, very well said, that if one of a student did some course from Chitkara University and wants to do in a continuation to Shri Sai University, so what will be happening in this case? So I think this is a one challenge which is to be seen from this perspective, that I will give you one example, that as we are doing it with the international collaborations. So when our student is going for abroad for doing some course there, so what they do is that they do the equivalence of our program or equivalence of our APG. So then they give that opportunity to that student to join their course. So I think, Rajita ma'am, we can also do among our universities to take care of the curriculum, that where we can talk about at one platform, that if particular course in one vertical is there, so let us talk each other as we are talking now, that how what different programs to be there in that particular discipline. So I think that can be done. And the second thing is that with the perspective of the national education policy, what is the requirement from us to the government is that since this policy is a very challenging thing, and we all have to think upon that how the interdisciplinary approach has to be taken care, and how the two programs can work together. I will give you one example, that there are two schools, one school of hospitality and one school of pharmacy. They work together, and they came out with a product which was very useful during COVID, and it was for the society to use that. So it was a energy bar, it was a hand wash, so that those products were there. But for that, well said by from the director from NIT, sir said that there is so much of infrastructure requirement and there is so much of fund requirement. So when the government is coming to us and they are evaluating our progress or evaluating our thing, so they must understand that we are not getting the funding from any agencies, especially the private organizations, and it becomes a very challenging job for us. So when we have to get the greenfield evaluators, so that for example, our universities are very young universities, and when they are evaluating our universities, they are comparing us with a university which are 100 years old or which are 50 years old. So if they are making the norms, they should have a cutoff that these universities are 20 years old or 10 years old. They come in the bracket of this. These universities are 50 years old. I will give you one example, that when NIRF started, so there was a pharmacy school in our region. I am from a north of the country, and we have a very prestigious university with us, the Punjab University. And everybody knows that Punjab University came from Lahore. And it was such an old university, and we were compared. Our pharmacy school was accredited in that NIRF ranking amongst the first 50. We were 17th in rank. But it was great challenge for us to be compared with the Punjab University, where we adore. We have a. I'm an alumni of Punjab University, and I have so much of respect for them, and we were compared with them. So I think the government, then when NEP is to be implemented, they have to have some norms for different universities with the different years. And the second thing is that since now we have 1,000 universities, approximately 1,000 universities, and they are saying that the GR in higher education 2035, the what is their target is that they have to 2035, that goal has to be achieved. And for that, they are saying that it means that every week there should be one university to be opened. So in 15 years, so this challenge, for that we need a lots of funding. And for that we request the government to talk to the industry. We are talking to them, and industry is very helpful to us. And as well said by my previous speaker, that triple P has to be, PPP model has to be worked on. Their public private partnership has to be done. So if industry come to our rescue, the private partners especially, and they are doing it. So if some of the industries will come to us, and some of the programs which we want to do in, especially in technology. I will give you one example, that when we wanted to do the use the technology in Chitkara University during pandemic, so we came up with a studio. It is Chitkara Radio, Chitkara Studio 401, where we established best infrastructure, where we can talk to our students virtually. And for that, it costed us 2.5 crores. So if industry was there, and if they were able to give us the technology, it was, we would have used this money for the benefit of students in another other verticals. So I think this is a request from our private universities for the government to help us out, that there should be very different type of regulations for universities to come up, and we assure them that we will give them a very good outcome for this. So thank you, Tarannum. This is a great platform where we have learned a lot from other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And yes, going to Dr. Rupa Vasudevan now, ma'am, if I can have a closing remark from you also on what the academia actually expects from the government in terms of implementation of NEP.
Thank you, Tarun, for your question. I'm not going to get into detailing. I know the paucity of time, so I'm going to just get into a very basic aspect of it. As I mentioned earlier, these NEP implementations can be stifled by a lot of a huge spectrum of aspects, because of the very reason that we are a very complex country in terms of, and especially the education sector. But the reality in today's digital first world is that we need to teach every generation how to learn, how to unlearn, and how to relearn, very quickly, because they are the ones who will transform the future of work rather than be transformed by it. And that's where, as educationists, as influencers, as leaders, as social leaders, we have a huge responsibility in our hands to prepare this youth to channelize this young generation, which is far ahead in times already, in terms of technology, in terms of creativity, in terms of expression. We have to also arm them with the courage, humility, wisdom, and values which are at a foundational stage. So what we need here are clear cut, structured efforts to map, to inculcate, to measure skills required among students and also the teachers to join the skill driven world. And I feel personally that we as educators, the universities, are uniquely positioned to combine the traditional expertise with the development of applied digital skills, and industry hand in hand, to offer highly impactful learning experiences for our students, and which is aligned to the future of work. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I would like a closing remark from Mrs. Rajita Kulkarni as well, ma'am. If you can give your closing remark as well.
Yes, thank you, Taranum. I think a lot has been said, and Dr. Chitkara outlined, especially from a private university point of view. So, my asks will also be the same: level playing field for private universities with state and central universities. Number two, so that is in terms of constitution. Number two, rankings to be rankings to be vintage based. As she rightly said, I mean, if I'm go- I'm an I this is my we are a young university, only 10 years old. This is our 10 years, 10th year. If you compare us with IIT Mumbai, what is the it is not a level playing field. So all our NIRF and other rankings should be vintage based. You compare us with who is as equal in that range, but I think today that is not there, and it just completely distorts the whole perception and everything else that is therefore related to it. So number two is that, and number three, so first was, I said, level playing field with central and state. Second is for rankings, and I was going to say a third thing, but I completely blanked out. So I think these are two big points, and I think a lot is being talked about implementing it. I think we need to show some speed in the implementation, especially for where the central and state governments and statutory bodies need to be there. So that would be my ask.
Perfectly fine, ma'am. And an opening, in fact, sorry, a closing remark from Dr. Sherry as well. So if you can give your closing remark here now.
See, my opinion about NEP is slightly different as far as the support from government is concerned. You know, government already developed a framework with guidelines to implement NEP. As far as the fund requirement is concerned or infrastructure requirement is concerned, in my opinion, this is the time for collaboration. For example, my institute is at Lucknow, and we are working in a specialized domain, that is IT. And nearby there is a university called Bhatkande Sangeet Vishwavidyalaya. There is another university, for example, Lucknow University. There is another central university nearby. There is one IIM nearby. But we are working in isolation till date. If we can collaborate, for example, in my previous remark, I mentioned that we are planning to start a program in computer science and music. So it's not necessary that we need a separate infrastructure to create a music department at Triple IT. If Bhatkande Sangeet Vishwavidyalaya and Triple IT can collaborate, because they are expert in music and we are expert in technology. So in my opinion, in that case, there is no fund requirement or there is no infrastructure requirement. Similarly, there is one example related with your social media. For example, Facebook. As I mentioned in my previous remark, that only technology is not sufficient to develop such type of social media platforms. We need experts, we need people who are good in psychology, who can understand human psychology. And in my opinion, Lucknow University is the oldest in this domain. If we can collaborate together, the Lucknow University Psychology Department and Indian Institute of Information Technology IT Department, so we can optimize the things. We can move in the multidisciplinary area. Right now, the focus on NEP is on multi word, means multiple entry, multiple exit. For example, in 4-year BTech program, if we understand the meaning of multiple entry, multiple exit clearly, a student can complete 1 year at Triple IT Lucknow. For example, the course is related with computer science. In second year, he can move to Lucknow University to complete the courses related with psychology or history or geography, whatever he wants to do. And now there is a provision for ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credit. And that Triple IT Lucknow can award the degree or diploma after, meeting the mandatory requirement of credits. For example, for bachelor's degree, the requirement is suppose 160 credit. If in its Academic Bank of Credit, there are 160 credit approved by our Senate or our academic body to award the degree, then I don't think we need multiple departments or huge funds to run a such type of model. So this is now our responsibility. As far as support from government is concerned, government is working day and night to implement this NEP in the country. And in my opinion, there is substantial progress in this direction. They already designed the framework, they already designed the policies. Every day, UGC is releasing new guidelines to implement NEP. Ministry of Higher Education, they are working day and night to implement this NEP. So policies are already in place, but in my opinion, as far as infrastructure requirement is concerned, as far as funds is concerned, everyone is aware we have some constraint in this area. So how we can overcome this constraint, how we can work forward in this direction, in my opinion, in education sector, there are many institutes in every city. Now there are so many private players available. Even in every city, you will find 2 or 3 good private universities. And one university is good in one department, another one is good in another area. So how we can collaborate? So this is my view. And as far as this institute is concerned, we are moving on the same pattern, on the same line, and we are not facing any difficulty related with infrastructure is concerned, related with funds is concerned. Thank you.
Perfectly fine, sir. And I think we are running out of time now. So thank you everyone for being a part of this discussion. The discussion was, in fact, very, very significant because we were talking about NEP. We got to know about the challenges, the approach towards the NEP, and also what the academia actually expects from NEP. I would now ask my backend team to present the token of gratitude certificates to all our speakers. Can we have the certificates on screen, please? This is a certificate for Dr. A.M. Ravani. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of the discussion. A certificate for Dr. Arun Mohan Sherry. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us time to be a part of this discussion.
Thank you.
A certificate for Professor T.V. Kattimani. He could not be a part for a longer duration because I believe he was boarding a flight today. But thank you so much, sir, for being a part. A certificate for Dr. Rupa Vasudevan. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being a part of this discussion. It was wonderful listening to your words. A certificate for Dr. Madhu Chitkara. Thank you so much, ma'am. Your words have been really, really wonderful, and your insights have been wonderful as well. Thank you so much, ma'am. One
Thank
for
you.
Mrs.
Thank
Ranjita
you.
Kulkarni. Thank you, Mrs. Kulkarni, for being a part of this discussion. It was wonderful hearing your words. I would like to thank all our panelists once again for giving us time and coming for this discussion. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You are just such a great moderator, Tarannu.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much, ma'am.
for
Thank you so
making
much.
us
Thank you.
comfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure
Thank you,
hearing all of you.
Arunji. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ravaniji. Come sometime to our campus, and thank you, Rupa, for being part of it.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
my
will
pleasure.
meet
Thank you,
physically.
ma'am.
It means a
Thank you, sir.
lot. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.